Welcome, Jalasi, bienvenue. This is a provincial reflection on what has transpired over the last three and a half months amidst COVID-19 relating to food security in New Brunswick. So this is a moment where we have just entered into summer. This would be the typical end of a lot of school food programs. We have moved into the yellow phase for most of New Brunswick and seen the number of cases stay at a low and reach zero for a number of, for at least some period. And so I think we can look back on this first wave of COVID-19, see how our emergency responses to food insecurity have fared, and to take a look forward as to what may be coming next, how we can have a coordinated effort in over the summer months and beyond. And so we have invited a few speakers to come today and share their experiences of what has transpired over the last few months, offer some stories and some reflections, and then to open it up to a bit of discussion. So we want to dive into those reflections. I will just mention that we have a time limit. We want to make sure that we can offer some time for discussion amongst the speakers and maybe taking a few questions from participants. So with that, speakers, I will be jumping in to cut you off if we're reaching a 5-minute mark. And I want also to invite that participants can offer their own reflections on what has been happening from your perspectives, and that you can add in your experiences as well. And so we take a moment to look back at what has transpired. I know from Food for All's perspective, we began hosting these provincial conference calls on March 19th, just a few days after the World Health Organization had called the COVID-19 a global pandemic, and when it was arriving here in New Brunswick. So we have been very busy going on adrenaline to ensure that there is the support needed for a provincial effort on food insecurity at this time. And I know many of you have been going full force as well. So let's collectively take this minute to reflect, to settle into the accomplishments, and to ensure that our next moves are strategic and are effective at addressing food insecurity at this time. I can also reflect on how of the 15 different public calls and webinars that we have hosted over that period, there have been 993 participants joining in. So there is clearly a renewed interest in addressing these needs, many of which already existed before COVID-19, but which the pandemic has revealed in a new light and with new urgency. We've also hosted a series of webinars that have been focused on teasing out some of the nuances of what food security means. And today's call is really reflecting on meeting the needs of those who are most food insecure. So we began that webinar series with a call on what household food insecurity is, what it means, how it's measured. And so this is a moment to reflect on how our emergency efforts through COVID-19 have attempted to address those needs. And today I received a new report that the federal government has released about food insecurity amidst COVID-19 from a brief survey that the federal government held in early May. So that we'll be sharing out after this call. And offers some more insight into what the needs really are at this time. But what we really know is that the on-the-ground emergency efforts tend to have their finger on the pulse and know what those needs are. So I'm pleased to have 3 speakers with us today. There may be a 4th joining in. So we have Annette Comeau, we have Erin Rideout, and we have Stephanie Lamèque. And we may be joined by Brian Siddle a little later on. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Annette Comeau, Donc, Annette, je vais présenter Annette en français parce qu'elle va partager son histoire en français. Donc, Annette Comeau est travailleuse sociale à l'hôpital de santé à Lamèque et aussi président du CA, du conseil administratif, de Secours Amitié de Lamèque, la banque alimentaire. Elle est aussi, grâce à la contribution de la Fondation des petits déjeuners de la péninsule acadienne et autres partenaires, elles ont pu offrir des boîtes de nourriture aux familles d'enfants qui bénéficient des déjeuners à l'école pendant la pandémie. Donc, aujourd'hui, j'invite Annette de partager ce qui s'est passé pendant les 3 mois et demi derniers. Comment est-ce que sa communauté a répondu à la pandémie et à l'insécurité alimentaire dans la péninsule et à Lamèque. Donc, Annette, je vous laisse 5 minutes à peu près pour partager l'histoire de ce qui se passe dans ton coin. Annette. Oh, je m'excuse, tu es maintenant en sourdine, mais... Oh, j'essaie de passer la parole.
OK, là
Voilà.
c'est bon?
Oui.
Tout le monde m'entend? OK. Je vais démarrer ma minuterie. Alors, merci pour la présentation. C'est sûr que nous, quand on a appris que la pandémie commençait et on devait fermer, c'est sûr que nous, pour avoir des revenus, on a une friperie où on vend des vêtements. Fait, si on ne vend pas de vêtements, on n'a pas de revenus. Okay? Et comme on n'est pas subventionné par le gouvernement depuis les 5 dernières années, à cause que les demandes n'avaient pas été faites, alors on avait vraiment 0 revenu. Mais une chose, c'est qu'on était quand même en assez bonne situation financière parce que la friperie rapporte vraiment beaucoup. Fait que moi, j'ai gardé les employés. Le conseil d'administration a décidé qu'on gardait nos 3 employés à temps plein. Parce que ce qui s'est passé, dans le fond, c'est que l'insécurité alimentaire a augmenté vraiment en flèche. On a vu vraiment nos boîtes presque doubler. C'était vraiment impressionnant de voir comment on avait des nouveaux clients, des nouvelles personnes qu'on ne voyait pas avant. Parce qu'avant, ce qu'on avait, c'était beaucoup plus des personnes qui étaient sur l'assistance sociale, qui avaient des couples ou des personnes seules, hein, qui vivaient vraiment à faible revenu. Mais puis, de temps en temps, comme dans des périodes de l'année, on avait des personnes en attente d'assurance-emploi, par exemple. Ça, on voyait ça dans à peu près 1 mois durant l'année. Mais jamais on a vu autant une grosse augmentation que ça. Et moi, ce qui m'a beaucoup surpris quand ça a commencé, c'est le nombre d'enfants. J'en revenais pas, comme il y a des grandes familles dans notre région qu'on ne voyait pas. Comme si je regarde, par exemple, la liste que j'ai ici, il y a 126 enfants pour 89 adultes. C'est quand même vraiment beaucoup. C'est vraiment une grande moyenne d'enfants, des familles de 3, 4, 5, 6 enfants, ce qu'on n'avait pas vu avant. Alors, quand ça a commencé, là, on est entré en contact, le district scolaire et les petits déjeuners de la péninsule nous ont approchés puis nous ont demandé est-ce que vous seriez prêts à faire un partenariat avec nous? Fait que là, bien, évidemment, on a dit oui pour sûr parce que nous, on a les effectifs. Hein, on est vraiment très bien organisés à Secours Amitié. Tu sais, les employés sont habitués et tout ça. Et moi, parce que je suis une travailleuse sociale communautaire, bien là, ça, c'est devenu mon projet communautaire. Pour essayer de justement donner de la nourriture à le plus de gens possible. Fait que là, quand on s'est rencontrés, j'ai eu les listes de toutes les familles qui avaient normalement leur déjeuner et ou leur dîner à l'école. Alors, on a pris ça en charge avec le partenariat des enseignants. Hein. Les enseignants venaient chercher les boîtes puis ils faisaient la distribution. Fait que ça a été vraiment intéressant comme partenariat. T'sais. Mais dès le début, là, quand on a commencé la pandémie, je pense que c'était comme le 14 mars, si je me souviens de la date. Alors, à ce moment-là, on dirait que c'est comme si que la communauté a dit « Oh wow, il y a quelque chose qui se passe là ». entre Inkerman et Miscou, les gens ont besoin de nourriture. Alors, on a eu des dons comme vous ne pouvez pas imaginer le nombre de dons qu'on a reçus. On a eu des partenariats que j'en revenais pas, des gens de la communauté, monsieur, madame, tout le monde. Il y a eu les magasins d'épicerie qui nous ont beaucoup supportés. Il y a eu comme les Chevaliers de Colomb, tous les organismes là, qui sont là pour nous aider. On a eu, par exemple, le réseau d'inclusion communautaire, le RIC, qui ont été très présents avec nous. Puis là, ben, comme cette semaine, c'est toutes des bénévoles du réseau d'inclusion communautaire que Suzanne a trouvé pour nous aider. Ça c'est vraiment, vraiment extraordinaire. Tu sais, on a vu vraiment un regain de... Ben, un petit peu comme, tu sais, quand on a vécu la crise du verglas ici, on l'a vécu quand même assez grave. Hein? C'était vraiment... Fait que là, on a réalisé vraiment qu'il y avait comme d'autres genres de pauvreté, si tu veux. OK? Fait durant la pandémie, c'est un petit peu ça aussi qui s'est passé. C'est qu'on découvre à ce moment ici que ce n'est pas seulement les gens qui sont sur l'aide aux revenus qui sont vraiment en insécurité alimentaire. Il y a d'autres personnes. Puis tout de suite, les personnes qui ont vraiment vécu beaucoup d'insécurité, c'est les personnes justement qui étaient à salaire plus ou moins minimum et qui ont dû arrêter de travailler. Et là, c'est comme nos nouveaux, ceux-là. Là. Tu sais, comme, ben, oh my God, c'est pas déjà fini.
Oui,
God! OK.
mais c'est tellement intéressant. Je ne veux pas couper la parole. Peut-être on continue pour une autre minute, juste pour finir. Oui.
OK, je vais aller vite. C'est que là, tout de suite, on a fini avec les écoles et tout ça. Mais là, comme on a découvert qu'on avait d'autres familles qui s'ajoutaient, là, en juillet, je vais faire comme une évaluation de ces nouvelles familles-là pour voir comment on peut les supporter. Comment on peut les aider à avoir moins d'insécurité alimentaire? Parce que je pense que le COVID nous a fait comprendre qu'on a plein de choses à faire, beaucoup d'éducation. Il faut qu'on implique des diététistes, il faut qu'on implique des agents de développement communautaire pour développer justement des cuisines collectives, des jardins communautaires. Je pense qu'il faut aller à cette base-là d'éducation et de sensibilisation auprès de notre nouvelle clientèle, puis même la clientèle existante.
Wow, c'est tellement fascinant. Merci beaucoup, Annette.
Merci.
I'm tempted to jump into questions. There is so much to follow up on from there. But let's hear from our other speakers. So it's my pleasure to introduce Erin Rideout. One moment. Erin Rideout is the director at the Inner City Youth Ministry, and she's also a member of the Greater St. John Emergency Food Program that has been providing emergency food to St. John households. So Erin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that initiative has emerged really just since the COVID-19 pandemic. I'll let you tell us that story, what has transpired over the last three and a half months, and a quick snippet of what you see coming in the summer. So Erin, I'll invite you to share that story. I'll jump in after 5 minutes. Oh, Erin, you aren't muted, but I'm not hearing your audio. We can't hear you. So we did a little test earlier, but it seems to no longer be working. Erin, would you be willing to jump off the call and come back on? And in the meantime, I'll invite Stephanie to speak. Okay, great, thank you. That brilliant old tech advice, try to turn it off and turn it back on again. So Erin will hopefully be able to join us in a moment. In the meantime, it's my pleasure to introduce Stéphanie Lamèque. Donc, Stéphanie est diététiste avec le Nuguktuk Centre de santé dans la Première Nation Tobique. Et Stéphanie va nous parler de ce qui se passe sur la Première Nation de Tobique pendant les 3 mois et demi passés. Et aussi, Stéphanie, si tu peux partager quelques petits trucs de ce qui va venir pendant l'été. Donc, Stéphanie, je te passe la parole.
Oui, bonjour. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui.
Je vais juste faire certaine que vous m'entendez bien. Moi, je suis francophone, mais je travaille dans un milieu anglophone, so I like to believe that I'm bilingual. If anybody has a question, I'm open to answer in either languages. Bon, je travaille avec Tobic depuis 2003. Je suis diététiste. Puis c'est ça, au début de la pandémie, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé avec nous? C'est on s'est rendu compte que dans les épiceries, les étagères étaient un peu plus vides. Il y avait certains items qui étaient manquants. Par exemple, j'avais des mamans qui me disaient hey, puisque j'habite dans différentes villes, peux-tu vérifier s'il y a des formules de lait pour le bébé? Parce que certaines marques de formules n'étaient pas disponibles dans les épiceries. Fait que là, on a réalisé que, oups, on va peut-être avoir vraiment connaître c'est quoi l'insécurité alimentaire ou voir une différente facette de celle-ci. On a vérifié avec nos fournisseurs pour voir si on pouvait commander des aliments de surplus. Puis, eux autres nous ont indiqué la même chose, que les gens faisaient plusieurs différentes commandes. Fait qu'on ne pouvait pas commander même des items qui étaient habituellement disponibles. Mais tout de même, on a réussi à faire entrer des caisses de différents produits. Puis, on a mis un peu plus d'aliments à la banque alimentaire. Question de créer un petit backup pour pouvoir supporter notre clientèle qui est plus à risque. Quand on regarde aux programmes ou aux activités qu'on a adaptées à la situation du COVID ou de la pandémie, on a un programme qu'on appelle Community Food Smart. C'est un programme où on achète les aliments, les fruits, les légumes en vrac, en bulk. Puis, on les a au prix coûtant à un meilleur prix. Puis, on les divise nous autres mêmes dans les sacs. Habituellement, on les vend une fois par mois. C'est les gens de la communauté qui paient à l'avance pour leurs sacs. Puis, ils reçoivent leurs sacs de fruits et légumes à tous les mois. Pour le COVID, ce qu'on a décidé de faire au niveau de la communauté, c'est que dans un délai de 2 semaines, ça fait que au début du mois, c'est la commande où les gens payent. Puis à la fin du mois, c'est une commande où c'est qu'on donne un sac de nourriture, de fruits et légumes à tous les gens de la communauté. Puis le sac, il est livré aux maisons pour essayer d'aider les gens qui n'ont pas de véhicule. C'est ça. Par exemple, hier, c'était notre journée de livraison. C'est qu'on a livré 420 sacs de fruits et légumes. On avait un 5 livres de nouvelles patates. On avait des melons d'eau, de la salade, des pêches, des bananes, des champignons, un peu différents fruits et légumes dans le sac. En tant que diététiste, moi, ça fait mon bonheur parce que je me dis, OK, là, les gens vont prendre l'habitude de manger plus de fruits et de légumes. Après ça, on a différentes initiatives. Par exemple, on avait un programme qui était existant pour au niveau des mamans enceintes, des prénatales, où c'est que j'établissais une relation avec la cliente, on achetait des fruits et légumes. Présentement, avec le COVID, je peux vous dire que les mamans en profitent pleinement du programme. On a aussi un programme avec Maui, qui est avec le groupe autochtone, qui essaie de faire des différentes initiatives en ligne, des promotions pour essayer d'encourager les gens à participer comme des crossword contests, des choses comme ça. On va aussi utiliser les social médias comme Facebook. On a des différents groupes pour le groupe de jardin communautaire, mais aussi pour le groupe de Community Food Smart. Puis, on envoie des messages pour essayer de garder les gens connectés, puis aussi aider au niveau psychologique ou au niveau du moral de la communauté. Un petit programme qu'on avait commencé en 2017. Puis aujourd'hui, je vois comme je suis contente de ce qu'on avait commencé. Nous, on l'appelle le Community Orchard, mais on n'a pas encore vraiment le vrai nom parce que c'est pas un champ où c'est qu'on a tout mis les pommiers. Qu'est-ce qu'on a fait? C'est qu'on a acheté des pommiers, puis les gens qui étaient déjà intéressés au jardinage, on a distribué les pommiers dans la communauté en 2017. En 2018, on a acheté des plants de bleuets. On a fait la même affaire. En 2019, on a acheté des plants de framboises, puis on les a distribués en groupe de 10 plants de framboises à différentes familles. Cette année, ce qu'on a fait, c'est qu'on a acheté un plant de rhubarbe, puis un plant de groseille, puis on les a redistribués comme ça. Le but étant qu'au cours de l'été, on va avoir différents fruits et légumes de près dans la communauté, un peu partout dans la communauté. Fait que même les gens qui n'ont pas de transport, ils ont accès à manger. Ou je me dis tout le temps, qu'est-ce qui va arriver le jour qu'on aura plus ou qu'on aura moins de fonds qui entrent dans la communauté? Les plants vont être encore là, puis vont encore produire des fruits et des légumes. Certains, comme les pommiers, on parle de 25-30 ans, qui vont pouvoir donner à manger à la communauté. Puis, bien qu'on va garder la distance, il y a certaines activités de jardinage qui sont encore disponibles. On a un tiller, je n'ai même pas le nom français, mais qu'on permet aux gens d'utiliser gratuitement. Il y a une personne qui va le livrer aux maisons, ils l'utilisent dans leur jardin, puis après, ensuite, on va le chercher à nouveau. On a aussi un concours de jardin, de sorte à encourager les jardiniers à avoir un jardin ou même à encourager les nouveaux jardiniers qui pensent peut-être commencer à faire un jardin à la maison. Puis cette année, bien, ça a été l'année pour les jardins des gens. Les gens étaient à la maison pour commencer, puis ont senti le besoin.
Stéphanie, c'est génial. Arrive maintenant à 5 minutes. Est-ce qu'il y a un autre mot que tu aimerais partager pour ce qui se passe dans l'été qui s'en vient?
On va continuer un peu les initiatives. Le sac de fruits et légumes, on prévoit le continuer autant ou aussi longtemps qu'on va avoir des gens qui vont aider à contribuer financièrement. Mais on prévoit continuer le programme.
Parfait. OK. Encore une fois, j'ai beaucoup de questions. J'aimerais discuter entre vous deux, mais on continue avec les autres intervenants. Et j'invite aux participants que si vous aimeriez, si vous avez des commentaires ou des questions, s'il vous plaît, utilisez la boîte de discussion. Je vois que Gilles a déjà commencé. Merci, Gilles. Et c'est une autre façon de partager entre nous. On est une province, on peut partager et nous soutenir de ce qu'on fait l'un à l'autre. Alors, s'il vous plaît, utilisez la boîte de discussion pendant l'appel. Mais moi, je continue. Je pense que... So, Erin, I believe you have joined us now. Do you want to try joining by audio? Erin, I'm not hearing you on the video. Do you want to try by the phone line? We have a backup this time.
Oh, except. All right. Can anyone hear me here? All right. Sorry about that. All right. Yeah. So I'm Erin, and Director of Inner City Youth Ministry, and just one of the partners with the Greater St. John Emergency Food Program, which really began, the school closure was the catalyst for beginning this. So it's a brand new program. Really what happened is at the beginning days, just like I think many people in the province, we realized schools were closed and a lot of families rely on lunch programs. I myself with Inner City run Lunch Connection, which operates in 3 of our community schools. And so knowing that right away, when schools are closed, those families are kind of left in a lurch, unprepared, with all the other stuff going on as well. It was just kind of a challenge. So it's kind of, what can we do? So we initially began a bagged lunch program in those first days. Started over the weekends. That was Monday was our first day, March 16th. We prepared 500 bagged lunches to go to 3 communities, not just for kids, but also for anyone who would like the lunch. Day 1, though, we realized that wasn't going to work quite as well as we thought it was going to. We lost access to a community kitchen. So we actually kind of switched gears quite quickly. And by March 17th, we were delivering food packs all over the city. So we actually delivered 24 packs that very first day. So I was kind of a success considering we had attempted to deliver lunches that day and had to switch things out. What was really exciting about those early days is that the numbers of partners and people willing to collaborate just kept growing. So it started with just kind of a handful, huge support from the schools and community groups and neighborhood organizations. It just grew and grew. So the list of partners, I mean, it gets long and complicated, but I will share that. So we have the Waterloo Village Neighborhood Association, the Boys and Girls Club, Horizon Health, the Carleton Community Center, Hennies and Sparrows Central St. John Community Ministry, the Crescent Valley Resource Center, myself with Intercity Youth Ministry, Pulse, so People United in the Lower South End, and also Jen Brown from Dorothy Shepherd's office as part of that leadership team as well. So we really kind of, from all over the place, different segments, neighborhood groups and other community organizations working collaboratively together. So we've been, like growing over the course of time. We were actually able to deliver over 1,700 food packs to families in St. John and the greater St. John area. That was one of the things that kind of shifted as we had more capacity. We were able to service outside city limits as well. So that was nearly about 3,000 individuals received food from this program. And it was really neat. One of the things that was really important to us was that it wasn't just about cost. So of course there were people who were facing food insecurity because of the cost, job loss, and all those things, but also access was really huge. So for whatever reason, whether they were immune compromised or transportation was an issue, we wanted to be able to reach out and reach people who access may be the only reason why they were reaching out, and that was a valid reason. So we've actually transitioned out of this program. We tied ourselves to the color-coded system with the government. So we began our transition out, and we are now finished operations. But that doesn't mean that the group of us aren't all collectively and individually working on food security in our areas. So we found that it was really like the perfect time to transition out. It seems like our demand was going down. And as government supports rolled in, and other organizations that had been kind of in place already prior to COVID had been able to have that chance to kind of take a deep breath and get prepared to meet the need. So as for what's next, all of our organizations, I believe, have food security efforts on their own. I'll be running a backpack program. We've got pantries reopening and all these things to make sure that that gap isn't there when this program ends, that we're all working hard on those existing programs. But also, and while I'm not the lead on this, there's some really great conversations happening over the city collaboratively about what's next. How can we make sure that this doesn't happen again? Even if we have a second wave, how can we make sure that organizations are able to meet the demand in a sustainable way? Because the program we developed, while it was really great for what was needed, it was an emergency program, it wasn't a sustainable program to be continuing on for long term. So we really are kind of having those conversations and working on all those programs that address long-term root issues for food security. Why is access such an issue? What things can we do? So yeah, it's been an exciting time. Collaboration has been a real joy, and also, they can be struggles as well, but what's neat is that it really is possible. And I think we've done something really neat here in St. John. So that's kind
fantastic.
That's kind of me.
Thank you so much, Erin. I know how quickly you were able to act. By our March 19th call, I was already seeing media stories with you quoted, about what was going on in St. John. So thank you for taking this time to give us a recap a few months later. Now I'll invite Brian Siddle to join us. So Brian is the Director of Services at Carrefour Communautaire Beausoleil. And he'll be sharing with us about a program that they've developed since COVID-19 started with the Family Food Box. So Brian, I will hand it over to you.
Awesome. Just make sure you guys can all hear me, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so kind of a brief overview of where things are happening, and just listening to Erin speak, it's incredible what they've done down there, and it's just great to see that everyone's kind of done their own thing to kind of fill the need. And that's kind of where we kind of stepped into. It pretty much all started off with the retirement community. We seen that there was a big need to fill some requirements in the retirement community, and we started with retirement Miramichi. And once we started there, we seen that there was a larger need outside of the retirement community. So we're still helping that out. But as soon as we seen that there's some families at home, we were contacted by several different schools that said they needed some support. And 3 days after COVID hit and schools were shut down, we had our whole program up and running and had our resources all together, delivery program in place, and started off. So we started with 29 families on April 1st, and now we're about 100 families we're taking care of 2 times a week. So it's that's delivered for free anywhere in the city, and now we're taking care of Rogersville, Bay St. Anne, Bay de Vin area, and approaching the boundaries of Neguac. So we're really stretching ourselves out to cover a vast area. Support on our side for the program, because it's already ready-made meals. It's not your traditional veggie boxes or anything like that there. It's pretty much heat and serve meals. We've been getting a lot of support from the community for funding, and it's the same thing, you know, United Way, Second Harvest, we've got enough funding in place right now. Our projections is we're going to continue the program until late October. So we've got the funding in place right now to bring us right to the end of October. So we're gonna keep going until it stops. The biggest thing on the program that we're seeing for the food security side on our end, and there's a lot of people that say, well, it can't be that bad right now. Some of our numbers have dropped down. They say, well, it must be doing good. I said, you're not seeing some of the places we're delivering. And when you deliver to the first home on your list of deliveries, and they're missing windows, they don't have running water, they don't even have power, and you wonder if anyone's living there. And then you see the kids peer through the window. It really makes you put in perspective the requirement for the support. Some of the families that we're delivering to, some of them, they don't even put the request in. We just go to them automatically and help them. Because we realized that it was the schools that were supporting them before, the Big Brothers Big Sisters breakfast program. They were surviving, the kids were surviving on that program, and when school ended, we seen that we needed to step up. There is some more. Big Brothers Big Sisters has done phenomenal here, and we still help them as well for their food program, but we needed to step up and continue doing what the schools weren't able to do anymore. So with that said, we're tied in with the schools around here to support some of those families and support anyone that's looking for meals. We're at the tail end right now of how our original program design is, and we're now branching out into an order whatever you want style box. So right now it's either you want a singles box or you want a family box, but at this point, we're changing our program to where you can go online, order whatever you want, and pay for that. Or if you're still looking for a sponsored box, then for sure we'll put the full sponsored box together. So it's changed a lot. We've learned a lot along the way, and we've went from taking a full day to do deliveries, and now we're able to do it in 2 hours with our logistics programs in place. So we're getting extremely efficient on how we're able to manage the demand.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing, Brian. So I'd like to thank all of the speakers, Annette, Stephanie, Erin, and Brian. Such different responses, and yet there are quite a few similarities. I'd like to open up to some conversation amongst the speakers. So I'll moderate a short conversation if we can. I think, and I'll encourage participants to continue to add in through the chat box. So I am hearing that a lot of even from what you're sharing, all four of you, is that this is revealing a lot of the circumstances that already existed before COVID-19. And that this is an issue of trying to figure out the economic access to food and good healthy food, but also the physical access of food and good healthy food. We've had this issue of transportation. So it's on one side a logistical issue of making sure that we can actually physically access the food. And it's also an issue of making sure that we can economically access the food. So who can afford to sustain themselves? Annette was sharing about those, even with the salary, if it's minimum wage, they were teetering on that point where a small change in job loss would mean that they were now servicing the food banks. And in our first webinar in the What the Food series, we heard from Dr. Val Tarasuk about how the typical response to food insecurity is that only about 20% of households would go to a food bank. And we're seeing those numbers reflected. Here we have the stories to back that up. Yes, people are accessing food banks, but they're also finding those food supports through schools, through community centers. And right now we have an all hands on deck response that is an exacerbated version of what's already happening. So with that, my question is, are there any new aspects of food insecurity that are being revealed at this time? And what are we learning about what we already knew about food insecurity?
I guess no one's jumping up first, so I'll do it. So something on our end that we're seeing is there's a lot more people going local. They want local produce, they want local meat. They're starting to see the need of supporting local. There's less hands touching the food. It's a lot safer. And the issue that we're facing now is supply. We're having a hard time with meat. We support our local meat producer here, Siddle Farm. And right now he's capped out. He's running out of meat that he can sell to public. And even with many farms that we deal with here, Green Light Farms, they're maxed out. They're at the capacity. So we're seeing a lot of people really pushing to go local, and it's putting a lot of strain, and there's just not enough supply there on the local front. Everyone wants to support it, which is fantastic, and going forward it should always be that way. But now we're running into an issue where there's just not enough to support. There's not enough food to support the demand. So I don't know, I'm not a farmer, but we visit farms on a regular basis and we support them as much as we can, but it just seems that the demand now is huge.
And are you seeing that across those who are living in food insecurity as well?
Yeah, it's pretty much right across the board. A lot of the families that we're working with and that we're helping, they're saying the same thing, that they started their own gardens, and we applaud them. That is fantastic. Everyone should have a garden in their backyard and get their hands dirty. It's a fantastic thing. It's just you can't survive, especially in middle of a city. You just can't survive on your own if you've got no acreage to grow your product. But the biggest thing that we want to support is the farmers and having access to land in order to grow and support the community that they're in more and more. We're looking actually at the moment at acquiring more land and seeing what we can do to convert that land into farming land, just to help support and turn it in possibly into a large green space for our local community. So then those people that don't have property, they will have access to this and have their own little section if they'd like, but that's where there's a lot of planning yet on that front.
And Brian was sharing about the how offering an emergency program like this is really seeing the front line of what poverty looks like in our province. And there is such a direct connection between food insecurity and income and poverty. When you have a tight budget, the food budget is often the most elastic part of your budget and the first to be hit. So with that in mind, I'd like to bring this to Annette, Stephanie, and Erin to ask about what are we learning about poverty in our province through this pandemic. We talk about an economic recovery. What do we need to be learning from this and building into New Brunswick's economic recovery plan?
If I'm supporting what Brian just said, that if I'm hearing correctly, people are turning local, and some of the farmers are not able to kind of, all of a sudden it double or triple the demand, and some has a hard time to adapt to this new demand. If we as purchasers, we would have always been purchasing local, I guess there would have been more of a balance. So I would encourage our governments to say, if apples are produced in New Brunswick, why is it that we can find apple in the grocery store from China that is at the same cost? I wonder if there's some policies that can be involved or help support local farmers. And same thing with the potatoes. If you're seeing potatoes from Prince Edward Island or from a different province come in and they're cheaper than the potato produced right here, that may make a little bit of a difference. And not to be a little bit of a bummer, but sometimes we have to look at our food supply chain. I've seen farmers this spring that had to dispose of their potatoes because processing companies were not buying them, for the simple reason that fast food restaurants were not open as much or were not selling as much. So the potatoes were not being sold through the processing plant to the restaurant. So the farmers were stuck with it. While on the other hand, we can look at people and they didn't have anything to eat from the grocery store. So there was a little bit of an unbalance in that area that we can certainly work on and try to make it so it doesn't happen again, to make it better. But transportation is also another point for a different part of New Brunswick. I work here in Tobic First Nation, and many people don't have a vehicle. They rely on the neighbors who's going to give them a ride for $20 to go to the next town's grocery store. During the pandemic, there was that distancing where you could not travel with somebody that's not living with you, and that left people at home that would have had maybe the $20-ish to pay the ride, but nobody wanted to give them a drive. So our Community Food Smart program, that was part of the reason we delivered to household, to make sure everybody would get it.
Right,
not
and
only
with
people
public
that
health
had vehicles.
distancing, we certainly wanted people to stay home. And
Yes,
so how
yes.
can we rearrange to make sure that everybody has that option? And I see with similar programs to Community Food Smart around the province, we're seeing a big uptick in numbers. There's a lot of interest. And in a lot of community supported agriculture programs too, where you're supporting local from food boxes. Annette and Erin, what does an economic recovery look like if we are to take the those who would use a school food program and those who would attend to make use of a food bank? How might an economic recovery include them?
Si je peux me permettre, je vais y aller. C'est sûr que moi, ce que j'ai vu vraiment durant le COVID, c'est je pense qu'il y a des... On veut... c'est sûr, nous, on n'a pas beaucoup de fermiers. Hein. Ici, on est vraiment en région très éloignée. Alors, des fois, pour aller livrer une boîte, ça peut prendre 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Ça fait qu'on est vraiment espacé sur des îles. Là, maintenant, ce qu'on a réalisé aussi, puis là, on avait fait un projet jardinage justement ce printemps et on a été livré des bacs avec de la terre et des plants à 10 familles. Et ces familles famille-là, curieusement, tu sais, les enfants, on leur demande, ça vient d'où une tomate, puis ils vont dire du magasin. Alors, il y a beaucoup, je pense, dans l'avenir, beaucoup d'éducation à faire, hein. Je pense qu'il faut qu'on essaye d'amener les familles à justement jardiner. Parce qu'ici, on n'est pas en ville, alors on a beaucoup de terrain. On a du terrain ici. Chacun pourrait avoir son petit potager en arrière de la maison. Tu sais. Je pense que ça, dans l'avenir, ça va être quelque chose qui va être très important de dire, OK, on va montrer aux gens à faire leurs propres légumes. Puis je pense que ça pourrait vraiment aider au niveau de l'insécurité et tout ça. Parce que c'est sûr que des fois, avoir des produits locaux, on n'en a pas tout le temps ici. Hein? Parce que là, tout de suite, nos fermiers, bien, ils n'ont plus de carottes, ils n'ont plus de navets, les patates sont presque finies aussi. Alors ça, c'est vraiment un défi. Mais comme l'autre madame disait, c'est sûr qu'au niveau du transport, beaucoup n'ont pas de transport, n'ont pas de voiture, alors ne peuvent pas aussi aller chercher les choses. Fait que je pense qu'il faut regarder à tout ça. Je pense qu'on a un gros travail d'éducation à faire, puis d'être capable de les supporter là-dedans, hein, de les suivre aussi avec tout ça. Là, on ne peut pas juste donner des bacs, puis OK, on se voit l'année prochaine. Il faut vraiment, je pense, les aider à cheminer à travers de ça, puis qui ont des petites réussites qui vont leur faire dire « Wow, c'est bien d'avoir nos propres légumes. » là,
Oui, c'est génial. Et je pense qu'on a quelques difficultés avec l'audio de Erin. Erin, are you able to join in?
I am now. Right, there we
Okay,
are.
fantastic. So
Yeah.
Erin, when it comes to this piece about an economic recovery, about those who are facing food insecurity, we've talked about gardens, we talked about local food purchasing, but that's out of reach for so many people living in poverty, and that some of the stats also show that a garden is just not sufficient to be able to actually provide that, we need that living wage or that living quality of life. How do we move forward from here? What would you recommend from your lived experience in delivering this program over the last few months?
Yeah, I think that biggest piece is that living wage part. That would be a huge change for the province and for all our residents. There's so many things that can help most families with food security that are actually more and more highlighted as something of privilege. Bulk buying, for instance. Not only do you have to have the cash up front to make a larger purchase, transportation is an issue. All of these sorts of things were highlighted. And one of the things that I really noticed over the course of this program as manning the hotline phone of people calling in a request is the level of shame that had been, that is in place right now with asking for help and support. And it was devastating. It really was. It was something that was so discouraging to hear. What was encouraging is that I think while it was very challenging for people, having COVID meant that it eliminated some of that shame because everyone was suddenly in the same boat. So the conversations I had with people, there was a level of, I've never done this before, or it was this much easier because it was kind of highlighted that, okay, this is lots of people are experiencing that. But one of the things I found were that people were feeling the need to kind of justify need, to constantly say, I need help because of this, this, and this. And what I think that really highlighted for me is that as resources, as community centers, all of these things is that we really need to address how we respond to need with dignity, because COVID in many ways stripped people of dignity, and food insecurity is something that should not hold weight of shame, because it'll be the reason why so many families don't access supports like food banks and things, and why some of it will just stay in place until those sorts of things are addressed. So things like living wages and community supports, wraparound systems, I think that is where we're going to see real change. And even the subtle things about, okay, you know, how do we make it so that people are really reassured that support is there, judgment free, and it's just, this is our normal, unfortunately. But really, this is just normal for a lot of people. There are many families that we supported that their income situation hasn't radically changed. So people have asked me kind of, why are they suddenly reaching out for help? I'm like, because they have the same concerns that we all do, and level of fear. Yeah. And so the very beginnings of the program, one of our biggest challenges was supply. It was really difficult getting the food that we needed in. And that's that kind of the spree on bulk buying and rushing to Costco. That's a privilege thing. Many of the community members we work with couldn't do that. And so when they did get to go, they could take small trips, a couple bags at a time, and they couldn't purchase the amounts, or the things that they needed were now suddenly gone.
Right. Yeah.
So these were all things that kind of were highlighted for me. Some things that I kind of knew ahead of time, but they were just kind of amplified. I think COVID brought more of what we already have. So if there was food insecurity, there's more of it. If there was unhealthy family connections, there was more of it. It was just whatever we had amplified.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you to all four of our speakers. We're about to wrap up, so I'll invite that we're going to put in a survey into the chat box so that we can learn on this call, get your feedback, and improve for the next calls. We do intend that we will be able to continue these conversations in many ways. Food for All and B was trying to connect the individuals and organizations who work in these food movements for the last 12 years. Certainly the interest has exploded over the last few months. And so we are continuing to play this role and to connect all of these players. What we're hearing, or what I'm hearing from today, is that you know, we need a yes and approach. We need food banks who can be there in the emergency and when people are most down and out. Yes, we need the community supports in schools and centers to be able to have a very comprehensive response. Yes, we need to look upstream and consider why are people ending up in such dire straits in the first place. Yes, we need to look at, like Erin was talking about, those wraparound supports that will ensure that that everybody has an equitable access to good, healthy food. Food is written into our federal laws as a right, a human right, and we, in many ways, are not holding that up. What happens in New Brunswick is that roughly 100,000 people are living with moderate, marginal, or severe food insecurity. So through this, let us continue to pull out the lessons learned. Let us also reflect on what food systems environments we have to support good quality food production, retail, and supports. And I'm hearing all of that through today's conversation. So thank you again to our speakers. Thank you to our interpreter. Thank you for the tech team who's behind this, helping to make it flow as smoothly as we can. And we will be sharing out this recording. Unfortunately, we didn't get to the questions that came up in the chat, but I think we can find a way to continue to share those out. So keep an eye on social media, and hopefully we can continue the conversation there and elsewhere. There's also a Facebook group where we have set up specifically around the COVID-19 response to food security in New Brunswick. So please stay connected, stay tuned, and for all of you who are working front lines during this pandemic, summer months and beyond, keep up the great work. We will continue to stay connected with you as well.